Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo Story. Uh, there is a development in the India's neighborhood in Bangladesh, where Bangladesh's interim CEO or the leader Muhammad Yunus has triggered outrage after gifting Pakistani general, top general of Pakistan, who was in Bangladesh. He gifted him a book carrying a controversial Greater Bangladesh map that depicts India's entire northeast as Bangladeshi territory. The move is seen as an extremely provocative gesture amid Yunus's growing proximity to Beijing, to China, and Islamabad, both. But it's come at a time when India China relationships seem to be on the mend. Just a few days earlier, India and China resumed direct flights between the two countries. To discuss more on this, we joined by an eminent panel today. Let's introduce our guests. We're joined by Ambassador Manju Seth, former diplomat, and Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. Welcome to Mojo Story, General Sahab and Manju Seth ji. If I may start with you, General Saab, this is a very, very strange development. You know, the map that's being uh, on that book, which was presented not to any government official, like a civil official, but to the general of Pakistan. You can see that map on that book, and that includes Indian states as well. Now, this shows the proximity of the Yunus government with uh, Pakistan that seems to be developing by the day. How concerned should India be with this development? So far, there hasn't been any response from the MEA, but it's a development that can't be ignored as well.
Thank you very much, Zafar, and thank you, ma'am, for joining you with you on this show. Well, first and foremost, of course, Yunus is neither elected nor selected, nominated, appointed, self-appointed, whatever the chief advisor that he is to Bangladesh. His, his entire, you could speak of whatever he might be. He is a Jamaat. Fully radicalized man with a anti-India, stand that he has always been taken. Now, having said that, even with his 25-party program that we intended to take it out on the 17th of October, wherein again there's a problem that is cropping up in which he kept Army League out of it. Bangladesh has always, now of late, been virtually being, I would say, going into the hands, or you could say into the group with Pakistan. Earlier also we had the Director General of Pakistan, of the ISI, visiting them, going down to the chicken neck area and wanting to see what Pakistan can do. Well, Pakistan, you have heard the radicalized chief Asim Munir talking of the Eastern Pincer wanting to come through Bangladesh. Bangladesh themselves, even after what's happened there, you find that Jamaat, you find definitely together conspiring against India. You find that what's happening now of late with Myanmar, with Bangladesh wanting to have the Rohingyas go back to Myanmar. Well, that is not workable. You see the American footprints over there, with they're wanting the St. Martin Island, their support to the Arakan army in Myanmar. You find Chinese inside. You find the Americans wanting the minerals, from Myanmar, wanting to use Bangladesh as a corridor to come out of it. So there's so much happening in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh over a period of time, of course, now economically has gone down drastically. It has gone down. With Pakistan feeling emboldened with the American help that is coming their way, the kind of time and again you find always and every time talking very highly about Asim Munir, the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. All this seems to making Pakistan feel that this is the time now for having been beaten in Option 2 very badly. but claiming a self victory, they are not going to lie low. And I personally feel that they are all out to do something mischievous, not maybe in the immediate future, but very close. Maybe in about a year or so, we'll have Pakistan do something. And in that context, Bangladesh is the one that Pakistan wishes to use. And Pakistan and Bangladesh proximity, Bangladesh virtually becoming slowly and steadily again as East Pakistan. You can see that there is a lot happening in Bangladesh, Dhaka, and we ought to be very, very careful. You had the death of the CIA person over there. We've had death in India of the Brahmos scientist happening over there.
Yeah.
We've had ISI chap knocked out over there in Bangladesh. All this is, these are not coincidences. There's something going on, but what and for which we all need to be very, very cautious, very, very cautious. Over 4,000 kilometers plus of boundary that we have with Bangladesh, over 1,600 kilometers of boundary that we have with Myanmar. So there's something that we all have to be careful about. Keep a very, very strict eye on Bangladesh. At the same time, build good relationship if it can be done. But otherwise, well, at this point of time, I personally feel Bangladesh is not going to be a very easy thing. Again, the state of ours also, we find that there's so much of, I wouldn't say anything more than that. They are finding it difficult for the kind of infiltration you see in Murshidabad, you see it in Malda. It's bad. It is really bad. And fencing also out of 4,000 kilometers, 10% not done as yet. That's almost 400 kilometers. So infiltration is rampant. So whatever we might say, infiltration is happening. We are unable to send back people within our country, able to give them Aadhaar cards and kind of citizenship facilitation for them. So it is not easy. I look at it, Zafar, it's difficult times ahead, but we have got to be vigilant and careful. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, that is what India must do, to be vigilant and to be careful. Uh, but the fact is that, this relationship, the proximity between Pakistan and Bangladesh is going at an alarming pace. This is the top general of Pakistani military who's in Bangladesh. Now, Bangladeshi officials have also been meeting with Pakistan, and we know the statements that's coming from Yunus. He spoke about the northeast states being landlocked. He talked about that and the condition of minorities in that country. India has been registering a protest with Bangladesh, but that doesn't seem to be changing their attitude, Ambassador Manju said.
Absolutely, we can see how things have panned out ever since the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was sort of pushed out
Yeah.
of Bangladesh, and now she's in India, so that they are making that also an excuse for being for being extra anti-India. But yes,
Yeah.
very rightly, as mentioned by the general, this is something. There are other people at play, other parties or other powers at play in the background. Definitely,
Yeah.
I believe that America appears to be using Pakistan, as we can see, in all around us, to also target India in many ways. And the fact that, you know, uh, the Pakistan second senior most general is in Bangladesh. Earlier, the ISI generals were there. Everybody has been going in there, and they've been talking of a two-front war. If India attacks, there'll be a two-front war. So all these kind of statements, threatening statements coming out from Pakistan especially, are a cause of alarm and a cause for worry for India, which, and very rightly, we have to be very, very careful, and we have to be very, very cautious and safeguard our borders and secure our borders. And the infiltration, which is continuing, illegal immigration, which continues from Pakistan, I'm sorry, from Bangladesh, encouraged by Pakistan and other people. We don't know who's coming in the guise of these illegal immigrants. So our security is definitely threatened, and the fact that the Jamaat has really become an important player in the politics, in the whole scheme of things in Bangladesh, and that they've brought Pakistan back, and it's almost like the Bangladeshis are being made to forget that ever they were attacked, and their forefathers were, killed, and foremothers were raped, and there was absolute tyranny in Bangladesh. Uh, I think one of the reasons why they are forgetting is, I believe, is that one of the reasons is that in their textbooks, when I was also posted there, I found that in some of their textbooks they were actually being taught that India was the aggressor, and that Pakistan army helped the Bangladeshis, and so that kind of narrative was built. Then that was corrected, but again, I find again that narrative. I'm seeing that is also again being re-promoted, that India was the aggressor, and they are our brothers, and we need to be with our brothers and not with India, and they're trying to cut off any good relations with India that existed, and all the bilateral cooperative programs. They're continuing with them because they feel that it is in their it serves their interest. But the fact is that an anti-India sentiment has become very dominant, and Pakistan is definitely Pakistan's ISI has always been active, but now it's got a chance to be officially, very, very active. And it is trying to, establish its footprints across the country. And the Jamaat has become very, very, very dominant, very active to promote this anti-India sort of narrative there. And if you look at the, so-called, I think, let me say, the or the pro-Indian people or the parties, their voice has been completely shut, and they are too scared to speak out. If any are there, many of them have, of course, left the country, I believe. But the ones who are there, they are too scared to speak out. And like in any country or any such situation, it is the so-called radicalized elements and the really militant elements who hold sway. They do not allow the others who would like to see other changes, who are not in favor of Yunus and want early elections. They are not allowed to have a say. Their voices are frightened, and I think that is another issue that is going on in Bangladesh. So I believe that we are in a difficult situation. India has to be very, very careful. And the fact that they've been talking of this greater Bangladesh, which includes parts of India, includes parts of Myanmar, I think is something which, and the chicken's neck corridor that they're going on talking about. I think that is again a threat which they might well carry out because they believe that, as part of the whole, whatever narrative building that's going on, that they have to, with China wanting to get there and the US trying to put us in a corner, all of them are, I think, working together to make sure that, of course, Pakistan is already doing what China and US wanted to do, and it's at their behest that what is happening. Now, Bangladesh is also in the same sort of camp, and I think this, we can see the axis is quite visible and quite apparent.
Right. General Saab, the fact is that we saw those pictures when even the statue of the father of that nation, Mujibur Rahman, was uprooted. You can see from those pictures that uprising that led to the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. It was clear right from the first day that things are going to take this turn, but it's happened so rapidly. The fact that a Pakistani general, top general, is in Bangladesh, and Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir has been threatening India. The things seem to be going from taking a different turn now. India has been maintaining good relations with all its neighbors, including Bangladesh. But one does not understand why is Yunus doing all of this, because what is the incentive, what is the gain that he is getting? India's good relationship with Bangladesh helped that country a lot. Its proximity with India, even leaving aside the historical context of Indian forces helping in its liberation. But why is Muhammad Yunus doing all of this? That's something that's quite surprising. Please unmute, sir, from your end.
and those incentives to each one of them are different. Bangladesh has a different incentive, is distorted maps. If within West Bengal, if people are to be asked, they're also in some of these newspapers when these things come out, they all dismiss it, saying that no, no, there are all fringe elements. They keep talking like this. Even during the time of Mujibur Rahman and earlier also, these people who talk all, we mustn't take it seriously at all. They have settled a boundary dispute with Bangladesh, but that isn't always there. Now you find that Yunus is a puppet. He has been maintaining excellent relations with America. Obviously, everybody knows why, and also with China. So both Chinese also have interest in Bangladesh. They have invested billions of dollars. We have invested billions of dollars in the
Yeah.
infrastructure. But the Chinese investments are those which are visible: the railway line, the infrastructure, all that, the investment of the Chinese. So the Chinese are keen that they need a warm water outlet, and therefore the Chittagong port and all of it gets a little importance. You find that the Chinese over there have built the port so that they find an access through Myanmar right into the southern part of China. So Chinese have a different interest in Bangladesh. The Pakistanis have a different interest in Bangladesh because they would much like to go along with America to see that if they could get them the St. Martin Island, which the Bangladeshis have been rather resisting. That was one of the reasons why Sheikh Hasina lost her power, because St. Martin was an island which she was refusing to give it to the Americans. The Americans want a foothold over there, which hopefully I'm sure they'll get it now. There is no question of not being able to do. Pakistan has a different reason, because Pakistan has all along hate India, and they get to hoops. By all means, they have to destabilize India. And for them, it is terror. Nothing but terror. Pakistan uses terrorism as an instrument of state policy. And with Asim Munir as the chief over there, now you have a first topmost four-star general, General Mirza, because Asim has become a field marshal. So there's a four-star general is only Mirza. Now Mirza is moving around, almost doing everything. Asim Munir has gone and sat along with Trump and is quite happy to be doing what he's doing. Now, Americans have a different interest altogether. They want Pakistan under all circumstances, because whatever it may be, initially the Americans showed no interest in that base in Afghanistan. But now they seem to be wanting that base in Afghanistan. They want a foothold in Pakistan. They want to have an eye on China. They want to have an eye on Iran. They want to have an eye on Russia. So Pakistan geostrategically becomes very important for America. So in that context, everybody is. Now, everybody wants have their one thing in common. And besides all this, there's a sizable, I would say, a minority within India which wants to destabilize India, because they are wanting to come into power. So all, whatever they might do, it doesn't matter to them how they want to come in power. Say they want to dislodge the party in power so that they can get power. So all of them have some interest or the other wanting to be in power. Everybody, all that is definitely not working in the interest of the country. The country stands to lose a lot, because we
Oh, General
work
Kulkarni, General
hard.
Kulkarni,
No, no, no.
all these countries have a vested interest. But what does Bangladesh, what does Yunus gain out of it? Because India is its neighbor, it's going to live with India. It is not going to go away. So what does Yunus gain out of it? One can understand the interest that Pakistan has, that China has, or even the America has. But what interest does India have in all of what interest does Bangladesh have in all of this?
See, all said and done, what does Bangladesh have? Bangladesh, from the time, either it's been the Awami League or is the BNA, the Bangladesh National Party, BNP. Now, you invariably find one of them. Now, whenever the BNA of Khalida was in power, what would it be? It would be anti-India. And when it is Awami League, again, that I wouldn't say that Awami League was pro-India. It may be pro-Bangladesh, but definitely it saw that the interests of India were not compromised. The northeast of ours was quite safe. We knew exactly how to deal with it. And Bangladesh, in turn, it helped Bangladesh to raise their own economy. The women empowerment, their garment industry, all of it picked up in such a way. Their own per capita income grew, their GDP grew. Everything was beneficial. But they didn't want Hasina. They wanted their own this thing. So the Jamaat, which was since 1971, to say that Jamaat has come up now, it would be wrong. Jamaat has been anti-India right from the beginning. Where is the doubt? The Jamaat was looking for it. And now, when they get the kind of money that they wanted, they got it. They got the support from it. So their interest is very clear. For us, we were thinking language is what binds and bonds the people over there. It is not language. We might think as Indian language born, but for them it is the religion which is more important than the language. So now what Bangladesh came up for the language seem to have slowly and gradually they have established themselves. They know language doesn't count. Now it's religion. So therefore, all these kind of contradictions that are there, and it suits Bangladesh, it suits them that they feel that 4,000 kilometer of boundary that surrounds Bangladesh, just about little less than 200 kilometers only with Myanmar, that also the Arakan army is in total control of that boundary with Bangladesh. Bangladesh today finds that it is so much better to hold anti-India because the entire thing in Bangladesh is now religion-based. It's not language that is guiding them or driving them. It is the religion which is driving them. And that is the reason why, what does Yunus say? Don't say I'm a Hindu. Say you're a Bangladeshi. Obviously they're Bangladeshi. Where's the doubt? You haven't gone to hit them because they were Bangladeshi. You are going to there to hit them, to destroy their property, destroy their temples, was only for one reason, and that reason was they're Hindus. Where is the doubt? Now look at the way he's talking. He's a real wolf. He's a very, very clever man and trying to have a facade of a smile on his face, seeing that small banks did it, got the Nobel Prize because of the American Clinton support and all that, whatever happened. But he's not a man. We have to be watchful. And we have very porous borders. And as I said, out of 4,000, 10 kilometers not fenced is enough. 400 kilometers is enough for people to infiltrate from there. You find all the border states, districts of ours, Murshidabad, Malda, almost the demographic changes that are taking place over there. So we have to be watchful. We have to be careful. We have to ensure that fencing and all is one aspect of it. We have to make, but then, as I said, within our own country also, there's a sizable number of people who don't seem to want a stability. They are looking at power. What is driving the people in India is power. What is driving the people outside India is to destabilize India. So all the things seem to be, one thing is to dislodge Karo, bring in, destabilize India. That's a bad thing, and therefore it's very, very essential that we need to keep a very strict eye. And the ISI is active in Bangladesh without fail. ISI is active to facilitate the American interest in Bangladesh. The Chinese are active in Bangladesh, and we need to be vigilant. We need to be having 24/7 our eyes on them. The way they have given those two airstrips in the Chicken's Neck to Pakistan for further developing it. What does that indicate? It's very clear. Wow, all of it, what Bangladesh is doing is anti-India now under Yunus. And Yunus is looking at postponing elections. Abhi Feb mein bola hai 2026. Even if that could be delayed, why not? So the July charter comes up. So Yunus is not a straight man, and therefore dealing with Bangladesh is not going to be very easy. And our own people in our own country also have to see that their own political interest mustn't drive them to get demographic changes being brought into India for the good of whatever that be. So it's wrong, and therefore it's important for us that Bangladesh needs to be seen from that point of view. Relations, yes, if Bangladesh wants good relations with India, by all means we want good relations with Bangladesh. But if they don't want it, so be it. And therefore we need to be very, very vigilant, because it's not going to be easy time with Bangladesh happening, Myanmar happening, Pakistan, China. You have what's happening in Nepal.
Yes.
All of it is really, really something that we need to be careful about. Yeah.
Right. Ambassador said, I was just wondering, looking at these visuals. Now, these are the visuals of the surrender ceremony in 1971. Pakistani General Niazi surrendering to General Arora. This is what has happened in the past. Now, have things moved on so much that it does not matter at all? They seem, as I was saying, the founder of that country, which is Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his statue was, you can see from that visual, his statue is being toppled, is uprooted. Now, if this is the situation, we're not talking about minorities right now. We're just talking about the historical context of that country, the way that country got liberated, the context of the atrocities, and then the founder of the country, his statue is being uprooted. And things are happening in a one way direction ever since. As I started my discussion by asking how concerned should India be, because things are moving at a rapid pace.
Very rapid pace and in a direction which is not conducive to our security and to our, to interest of India. I think
Yeah.
Bangladesh, and not in Bangladesh's interest also. I think it is not in their interest also to go on in the direction that they are going. They seem to be, as I said, the leaders and the others seem to be in denial. And there's a large chunk of people who in Bangladesh also do believe, because as I told you in their textbooks, they used to have this taught to them that it was the Indians who attacked them. They were the attackers, aggressors, and it was the Pakistani army which stood by the Bangladeshi people. So that narrative building has been reaffirmed, I think, or reinstated now, with many people, not many people in Bangladesh not bothered that this happened. You know that Sheikh Mujibur Rahman statue was, brought down, saying that he was not the founder, literally saying that he was not the founder of Bangladesh. But it was the others, and the other point which I want to make here now is that, not everybody, why is this narrative building being so easy? Because not everybody in Bangladesh was involved in the freedom struggle. It was only the Mukti Bahini people, and also all the intellectuals and the university professors were all just shot. So the armed janta, so to speak, in Bangladesh was not really aware of what was happening. It was limited to some pockets, what was being done. All the intellectuals were students in the universities, in Rajshahi University, in Dhaka University. They were just, Chittagong University, they were just lined up and shot and killed. So not many people knew or were affected directly by what happened at that time. And so it has been easy for different regimes, and particularly the current regime, and with the Jamaat going around with an anti-India agenda and creating this, helping to create and spread this narrative, and a huge degree of radicalization has happened, in Bangladesh. So I think that is a big, it is a big problem, and the fact that Bangladesh is ready to deny history, I think is not going to be, as I said, not good for them either. They're denying what happened, and they're saying now that India is the enemy, and now they're very, because this, I think what Professor Yunus feels, and as very rightly mentioned by the general, he seems to be, in a religious factor. Facts are not, they're not interested. They're not interested in what actually happened and what is the relationship with India, and how even now we are continuing with the collaboration. So this radicalization that is happening is detrimental to a pro-India feeling, and the religion seems to be on the ascendant. Sorry, and I think that is going to impact the relationship quite a bit. It has impacted already, as we can see, and the current leadership is obviously, happy with the way things are going. Why they are happy, I'm not so sure. And this, the fact that publicly, Professor Yunus has not denied that there are this, what Pakistan has been saying, and that it's two-front war and things like that they've been talking about. He has not denied, or he not said that Pakistan, we will not take part in the war against India. So I think it is, again, as I said, other powers at play who are making this happen, because it is in their interest to destabilize India, to stymie India's growth, and we know that the US has, the current US president has a different approach to every trends and foes, as we have seen, and with India particularly, I think he's very miffed, and with our leadership, and so the US is going to go in full throttle, trying to fix India, put India in its place, so to speak. And that's what they seem to be doing. And China, of course, we know what its position has always been. It has been, friendly on the one hand, and they've kept on saying border issues should be resolved on a separate plane. They should not be looked at in the whole totality of the relationship. So I think India is not in a very happy situation at the moment. And we have to hedge our bets, we have to hedge our interests, we have to see. But we can't totally walk away from this or run away from the situation. We have to find mechanisms to safeguard our interests and increase our security. I think we cannot run away. But, the fact is that just because everybody is against us, we are not going to run away, and we're not going to get. We should not get scared. And the fact that they're following what China was doing, or giving distorted maps and claiming territory. So the China, I think, factor seems to be at play here also, and the distorted map that they presented of, the greater Bangladesh thing, and radical elements in their country have been talking about it for some time. They raised it earlier in October last year also, I believe it was raised, saying that not October, in July, and last October it was raised, saying that Bangladesh, greater Bangladesh has to be established. So I think all these things are not good portents for the region, for India, and I think for Bangladesh as well.
Right. We spoke about Bangladesh, but I would want to briefly touch upon India-China relationship as well. Now, on the one hand, we seem to be seeing a China-Pakistan-Bangladesh axis that is taking place, and on the other hand, the ice seems to be breaking between India and China with the introduction of direct flights, first time after in 5 years. Now, the relationship had actually nosedived after the Galwan incident, but now things seem to be slowly going towards a position of stability. What is your analysis, General Kulkarni?
See, China is our neighbor. That is the first thing. And
Yeah.
we can't change the neighbors, this thing. So since they are a neighbor, it would be in the interest of both the countries that we maintain good relationship.
Right.
Obviously, but to what China did at Galwan was something, at least I never expected it, because I had been dealing with them for almost 20 years. I didn't realize that what drove China to do what it did in Galwan. Obviously,
Right.
whatever Xi Jinping's this thing would may have backfired, he may have realized it, and now that tariffs, the world over, the Chinese would much like to have good interest, good relationship with India, and India also desires good neighborly relationship. And obviously, we have stated it in no uncertain terms that border would dictate. Peace at the border is the first step that we would ensure if we want to have good relations with China. So hopefully, I'm sure over the years now we'll get to know how the Chinese would now be behaving themselves on the LAC is concerned. But notwithstanding that, definitely good relations with China are in the interest of both the countries. There is no denying the fact. And therefore, in that, I would say in that direction, this air flights being resumed between the two countries will definitely help. There are a lot of investments which would be coming here, and they would also be wanting, rather than doing it and coming from some other country, like most people were going to China, hopping into some other country and then catching, at least now the direct flights that are taking place. And if there are good relations with India and China, hopefully they may have some kind of an influence over Pakistan, for which again Pakistan, knowing that if there are good relations between India and China, they themselves have now gone and is back in Pakistan to Allah Army America. So they're back into the American this thing. America also seems to be moving along with them. Notwithstanding, after all, as I said, there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, but there are permanent national interests. And therefore, in those national interests, we have to go about it, and we have to ensure we maintain good relations as long as the LAC it doesn't sort of create any kind of confusion, no kind of I would say where it's getting active for no rhyme or reason. And therefore, if that LAC, if there is peace and tranquility along the LAC, the border agreements are being adhered to, and the two armies don't come across each other fighting one another, I think all other things then can take place. If there is peace along the LAC, everything else can find its way through, no problem whatsoever. But if there is no peace, if this is got to be trade separate and peace on that LAC separate, well, Government of India, as I'm sure, has stated in no uncertain terms. We hear the Foreign Minister say so many times that is not possible. What China wants it to disengage these two, so we have to ensure that way. And I think it's a good step. No, I would personally say that good relations with China are in the interest of both the countries. Yeah.
Right. Last word to you, Ambassador Seth. The point is that some say that India's closeness to China is also related to Trump's tariffs on India and the way the India-US relationships have developed uh, over the last few months. Do you think that India and China are on a separate trajectory, and India and China relationships are on the mend, and it's nothing got to do with India-US relationship?
Absolutely, they are standalone. There is no doubt about it. It's only that I think what the U.S. President Trump's tariff war, so to speak, it has only hastened it. I think it's not something that it is dependent on it or it's it's interlinked. I don't think so. It is a standalone relationship, and it's important for India to have good relations with China, to have good relations with the U.S. But it is a two-way street. So it has to be mutually beneficial for both countries to have good relationships. And I think the flights that are resuming now are in the interest of both countries. And yes, we are going step by step. We're not rushing to mend the relationship. And yes, as if the boundary at the boundary at the LAC, if there is peace and tranquility, that's what we've been wanting. And that China addresses our trade imbalance concerns. I think there was a report saying some of our exports there's been an increase in our exports to China, which is a good thing. But yes, it has to be mutually beneficial, and then only can a relationship really prosper. And it cannot be very imbalanced. And yes, China is a neighbor. We can't deny that. We have to have good relationships, a good relationship with it, but with US also. I think US is also an important partner for us, a strategic partner. So the fact is that we have to have, but they're all standalone. We can't really say that because of China, because of the US actions, our relationship with China needs to be better. It is a standalone thing, and in our interest, and that's why we will need to have a good relationship with China.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Manju Seth and Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts. Lots of things happening in India's neighborhood. Of course, India will have to watch things very carefully because the things are moving at a very fast speed. These are rapidly changing development, not just in the neighborhood, but across the globe. And India will have to make those strategies and those policies accordingly. Thanks so much for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts. And thanks to our viewers for watching the Mojo Story. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.